All right, welcome into a Maize in Brew six-pack. We are previewing Washington. I am Jared Stormer of MaizeandBrew.com. With me tonight, and as always, Andy Bailey, my hetero life mate, also of MaizeandBrew.com. Andy, a little bit of a weird one last week. The vibes, I wouldn't say they're off, but the vibes are different coming into this one. Michigan, 2.5-point dogs, now 1.5-point dogs as of this morning to Washington on the road in Seattle. How are you feeling about this one, my friend?
I mean, there's a little bit of nobody believes in us surrounding Michigan, a lot of desperation surrounding Washington. I mean, Giles Jackson revenge game on the line, Michigan dogs in this one, as you mentioned, and kind of just on the ropes of suffering their first unranked loss since. When's the last time Michigan lost to an unranked team?
The last time Michigan lost to an unranked
Excluding
team,
2020.
2020. Yeah, I was going to say, take that out. Man, that's a good callback. You're the historian here. Don't do this to me.
Iowa 2016.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, that's right. They weren't ranked. Yeah.
I think they finished ranked, but coming into that game, they were 5-4.
Yeah. I was gonna guess something in 2017, but that's kind of surprising. Didn't lose to a ranked team in 2017. That's interesting. Yeah, that seems to be what Vegas thinks. We'll talk about if we agree upon that one. But on the surface, you look at that and you're like, that seems wrong. Michigan 4-1 with a win over a ranked USC. This 3-2 Washington team, their best win is Northwestern. I mean, the best team they've played is Rutgers, and they lost in a game they probably
has a monogrammed visor.
Yeah, I don't trust that. Come on now. Immediately, as soon as first of all, you shouldn't have a visor. Secondly, if you monogram your visor, what was that conversation like when he took his visor into the monogram store? The guy's like, "Are you sure you want this?
Yeah, make the J bigger."
They need to be able to know who it is. Like, yeah, you're the head coach, man. We know who you are. No one's stealing your visor, Jed Fish. Like, hey, you want to see my visor? It's the one with the JF on it. No. Whatever. Like, we support Jed Fish in this household, former Michigan quarterbacks coach, who's really risen in the ranks. And I think he's going to be good there. I think that there's the bones of a good team there right now. But as I mentioned, 3-2, no real impressive wins to speak of. Wins over Weber State, Eastern Illinois, and Northwestern. Losses to Rutgers and Washington State. And yet, Michigan are dogs in this one. Like, it looks weird on the surface. Talk me through it. Why is that the case?
I think optics really come into play here. I think that's one of the biggest issues. And like last week, Michigan really just had to hold on against the Minnesota team. And a lot of ways, Washington's kind of similar to Minnesota, and like just they're kind of middling right now. And I just think that's having a lot of impact on this. Michigan can't complete a forward pass or struggles to do so. It's been around for 130 years, and they still haven't mastered it yet this season. So I think that plays into what Vegas is thinking.
Yeah, and also, like, when you start to break down the minutia of it, you start to be like, wait, why isn't this Washington team a little better? Will Rogers, 15th in the nation in passing yards, 2nd in the country in completion percentage. Jonah Coleman's a top 15 rushing back by yardage. Denzel Boston's a top 25 receiver in the nation by receiving yardage. Giles Jackson right behind him with 400 yards receiving. They have 2 guys with more receiving yards than our entire team. It's a decent passing attack. Will Rogers doesn't really turn the ball over, completes passes. It's a top 10 scoring defense, number 10 in the country. So you look at that and you're like, why isn't this Washington team better?
I think Washington is the best bad team in the country, and very similar to 2021 Nebraska, who went 3-9. So if you look a little bit closer in the numbers, when it's rolling, it's great, but too often it hits rough patches. Washington's ranked 21st in total offense, but 89th in scoring offense. Scott Frost in Nebraska in 21 finished 22nd in total offense and 71st in scoring offense. Just a lot of empty calories and a lot of not cashing in drives. That year, Nebraska only beat Northwestern and 2 non-Power 5 teams, and they had an NCAA record 9 one-score losses. So far, Washington has only beaten Northwestern and 2 non-Power 4 teams and has 2 one-score losses.
Yeah, so, I mean, you look at the Rutgers. That's a great Nebraska poll by you, by the way. You look at that loss to Rutgers. Will Rogers goes for 300 yards, no picks, 2 touchdowns. Jonah Coleman rushes for $150, and you only get 18 points. Like, that says to me, yeah, like they're struggling to execute in the red zone, struggling to score. But but not struggling to move the ball. So Vegas seemingly thinking that that's going to turn around. This is going to be a team that eventually figures out how to score. They got to get out of their own way, though. This team is number 124 in the nation in penalties against, with 400 yards of penalties assessed, basically 75 yards of penalties per game. So, I mean, you're giving up the entire football field once per game, or each game, in penalties. So the fact that they haven't got that cleaned up, the inability to score at times, and just like in a lot of the ways that Michigan is really close, like Washington is really close on their offense, but it just feels a little different.
Yeah, you mentioned the red zone problems. They're 117th in the country, and they're also bad on third down. They're 82nd in the country. They're actually even statistically worse than Michigan is on third downs. And it's just like they can't really figure it out. Like, Will Rogers is an efficient passer, and he has 10 touchdowns to no interceptions this year, but he's also had 3 fumbles in 3 straight games. And sometimes he has multiple fumbles in the games. Whether he's always losing possession of the ball to the other team or not, he's still not very sure-handed there. And it's just these little things that add up. Because, like, as Michigan fans, we unfortunately saw late in this game what a fumbled snap can do to field position. It sets you up. Thankfully, Michigan only had to have one more run with Kalel Mullings to end the game, but these are drive killers. This is what's slowing the team down, and it's only just exasperated by the fact that their kicker, Grady Gross, one of the few returners from last season, started the year 5 for 5, but has now missed 4 of his last 6 kicks.
It's just a lot of the little things that that add up to make this team, like, that seems like they should be good. You look at those numbers like we just talked about with Jonah Coleman and Will Rogers and Denzel Boston. You're like, man, that's a great core. They seem like they have balance. And then you look at some of the minutia, and that's why. What does this team want to be? Like, what would you imagine the Washington team to be? I mean, you can kind of look at what Jed Fish built at Arizona last year for kind of the future blueprint, but it seems to me so far like they want to play a pretty balanced attack on offense.
Yeah, I believe they're attempting the same number of rushes as passes. Like, there's a lot of bones to Michigan's offense in this. Like, it's a lot of West Coast concepts. They want to just be efficient and have the balance and move it down the field. But it's these small things that just keep interrupting that. You can't be efficient and stay ahead of the sticks and play with some rhythm when you're having the penalties. Almost 9 a game offensively, just offensively alone. That's crazy. And just with the missed blocks and stuff. And now, granted, like, it does make sense, though. When you're replacing everybody from your 2 deep on your offense and defense from a national championship team, you're going to struggle in the margins a little bit. Well, we're seeing it with Michigan struggle in the margins as well with replacing so many pieces.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. The last time we saw each other, national championship, saw each other again. What was it, 2021? Yep, 2021. We saw this Washington team. So even before they joined the conference, starting to become a foe that we're pretty familiar with. Lots of turnover there. On paper, it looks like the Michigan defense matches up really well against this Washington offense. The Michigan defense on paper matches up well against everybody because they're stars at every level. But this team in particular that wants to be pretty balanced and wants to rely on their top 2 receivers, Will Johnson should be active for this game. Massive. I mean, obviously, that's not saying anything groundbreaking, but you're going to need it against like a quality passing attack like this, in my opinion.
Yeah, Denzel Boston is very much the sole focus of this passing attack. Of Washington's 10 passing touchdowns this year, he has 7 of them. Like, you can really pinpoint the strengths of this team in singular players. And Jonah Coleman, Denzel Boston on the outside. Giles Jackson on the inside worries me a little bit, certainly where Zeke Berry's been in the linebackers and coverage. But I am very confident in Will Johnson's ability to just kind of erase or very, very much mitigate Boston's impact in this one.
You texted me about a little weird wrinkle of doing Will Johnson at the nickel, similar to what they did with Woodson in the 97 Heisman season. If you were going to deploy such a look, this might not be a bad week to do it.
No, I mean, look back to what Dax Hill did in 2021. They shifted him there away from safety because he could be more impactful, do a lot more things. And while Zeke Berry has had moments, the forced fumble last week, the interception against Fresno State, it's been inconsistent. And Will Johnson, like, as your best player, as we saw against Texas, they just played on the other side of the field, and he was a non-factor. Like, granted, he took away that side, but if he's playing the nickel, you can't do that. He can be more impactful, do more things on both sides of the line of scrimmage, and that would be an awesome wrinkle to see this week, but we might have to wait until after the bye week.
Probably so. Yeah, you really want to be able to install that with some confidence. If I'm looking at one place where maybe I'm a little nervous, it's the safety position.
Yeah.
It's been a little rickety for Michigan all year. Makari Page banged up, and even when he's been out there, he hasn't been nearly the player he's been in the last couple seasons when he's had Rod Moore across from him. So big plays in this one. Like it's going to be a low-scoring affair. Surprise with Michigan out there and our offense, our vaunted offense that we'll get to in a minute, but you've got to just be able to find a way to like win this turnover battle, and you've got to be able to just stay locked in the back end to the point where you're not giving up any like big explosive plays, because like 2 explosives against us could really damn us.
Oh, 100%. It's one of those games where having Josiah Stewart back, hopefully, fingers crossed, fully healthy, could do wonders, because Michigan is probably going to be able to get home rushing 4 in this game. Also, they're going to be able to rotate TJ Guy, keep him a little bit more fresh on the outside as well. And that's going to prevent those explosives. Like, that's going to keep them checking down and working underneath, because they take the top off the defense, which, most teams have struggled to do against Michigan the last few years. And that completely changes the complexion of the game.
Yeah, shout out to Lewis and Tyler in the comments here. I'm also feeling kind of good about this matchup. We'll get into our predictions here, but this side of the ball is where I feel the best, where we're at right now, our defense versus their offense. I mean, they could only muster 18 points against Rutgers, over under 18 points against the Michigan defense. What are you feeling?
I feel like slightly under. It's very similar to Minnesota. I believe they're right next to each other in scoring offense this year. I think Minnesota's one spot higher. So it's just very similar to that. And I do feel good about this side of the ball, but that's only if Michigan's offense can just stay on the field a little bit longer. We can't have these 30-second drives.
No, 100%. So let's transition over there. Sadly, we have to talk about this offense. It does me no joy. It gives me no pleasure to talk about it, but it sounds like Alex Orji is going to be the quarterback again. There was some kind of interesting comments from Kirk Campbell this week about maybe you could eventually see somebody else like Jack Tuttle getting healthy. Like maybe that's still in the cards. I mean, at this point, we're halfway through the season. I'm not going to go to the bank with that, but it's possible we see some Davis Warren in this game. Look, when Alex Orji, who is a great Mike linebacker, is your quarterback, like I think you've got to have all options open to you as far as like maybe we got to look somewhere else. If this thing comes out early and looks really rough against a solid Washington defense, like they might look around. I don't know. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, they gave Kirk Campbell a will linebacker. They're like, all right, make it offense. He's just staring at them like, what do you want me to do with this? It's my first time calling plays. So yeah, man, I mean, really expect a 5-down bear front against this. I don't know why all teams don't run this against Michigan. Bring in 3 defensive tackles, 2 edges, and just commit to shutting down the run and play man-to-man, because until Michigan receivers show that they're capable of getting open, that's the way you're going to slow down this offense. And I think Steve Belichick is smart enough to know that.
God, I forgot it's Steve Belichick and Jed Fish. What just a bizarre combination out there.
I like Steve Belichick, to be honest. I'm going to keep it a buck.
Oh, yeah, as do I. Like, that guy might enjoy the nose candy a little bit based on some of the antics I've seen on the sidelines, but that's neither here nor there. Man can coach a defense. So, yeah, I'll be interested in it. It kind of sucks, though, that, like, it is so simple to come up with the game plan for this Michigan offense. Like, what you just said, like, seems so oversimplified, because it is. Like, it really is. Like, when you can't have the forward pass in your arsenal.
Exactly. I hate to sound like just the old Twitter comments of stack the box and press your corners. That's how you beat Michigan. It's like, okay, well, 15-0 to national championship, and they still couldn't figure it out. So I trust they're going to have some creative measures to counter that. I think Kirk Campbell's smart enough to know that, hey, if they run this, we need to attack them on the perimeter, stretch them out. The good thing about Washington, though, the defense, while they have strengths, it's not on the defensive line. The linebackers are a different story, though.
Yeah, they have great linebackers. I'm going to butcher the name of Alfonso Tuputala, maybe
nice
2.5.
Job. That was good.
I gave it a go,
Yeah.
but I really like him at linebacker. He's been solid. He's their leading sack getter. So, I mean, the strength of this defense, definitely their linebackers, which makes me a little nervous, like, because they're going to be coming downhill with that bear front, like you mentioned, against Khalil Mullings and Donovan Edwards and such. So I am a little nervous that it could take Michigan running game some time to get going.
Yeah, dude, I am terrified of Evan Link operating under a silent count against these linebackers. Like, they're just moving around in Michigan. They're going to run silent count because they have to on the road here. I don't know what that's going to do to his step. I hope he's quick enough off the ball because that could be rough. They might have to keep a tight end on his side at all times. I mean, especially given what we've seen from him so far this season.
They may need to reach out to like one of the saints from our yesteryear
I
to
know.
protect him. Lord, look over Evan Link on this day because that's what we're gonna need. Yeah, man, I tend to agree, and it's loud in that Washington Stadium. This is a really good environment. It's going to be difficult. Michigan's first road test, obviously. I think that is probably the biggest reason Vegas is probably leaning Washington.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it's like Michigan hasn't been tested, and look how shaky things have looked at home.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. And the road factor will matter in this one. It's a matter for all the Michigan teams. Like there can be struggles on the road at times. And it's going to be fascinating to see how they adapt. You might see Sherrod Moore take over some play calling again, get back to the bones of this thing. But like the one thing that's good about this game for Michigan's offense is it's pretty straightforward. You're going to run the damn ball maybe 50 times in this game. And if you're doing that, then other things are going to open up. You're going to be able to get those linebackers and safeties crashing down. So maybe there's some easier throwing windows. It's pretty straightforward.
It is, and the Michigan game plan should be pretty straightforward. Like we're gonna have to run the damn ball in this game, and unless like magically Jaden Davis has progressed to the point where he's ready to come in and toss it around, like I don't anticipate some great aerial attack. If it's Alex Orji again, we were pretty close on his stat line last week.
Vaughn
What do you
was
think?
very close.
Vaughn was on it, yeah. So what are you thinking for this week? Over under 100 yards passing. So sad. I'm depressed right now. Just saying that.
I'm going to say under because I anticipate a higher dose of runs from him. So I would say under 100 yards passing, but I think he goes over 50 yards rushing in this one.
Yeah. Oh, shout out to Olivia in the comments. Thanks for joining us. Is that even a question? No, it's probably under 100. I'm gonna go ahead and lean on the under on that. Can I get that on FanDuel? I'm gonna have to check after this pod.
I think you can bet like over 0.5 touchdowns, like passing.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to take the under on that as well. I'm going to take the 0 passing touchdowns. It seems like we're really crapping on Alex Orji and Evan Link. It's done in jest, like they're both young. They're both still figuring this out, and in Alex Orji's case, figuring out that he's going to be a tight end in the future. Evan Link, I still think is eventually a starting right tackle.
Yeah, Evan Link could be a stud as soon as next season.
Yeah. Lewis reaches out, and I agree with you, Lewis. We're not trying to crap all over Evan Link too, but the fact of the matter is, it hasn't been great. It's a pretty clear weak spot that can be exploited. Every time that a Michigan quarterback has dropped back to pass, it's just like, I don't know. What do you think the average is? Like 1.5 seconds before they're in chaos?
It feels like it at times. Like you're just holding your breath. Like you're just always very nervous about what's going to happen because the center and right tackle position have just been underwhelming. And opponents know that, and they're going to scheme around it. It's going to be interesting to see. Now, if Evan Link continues to get better, we saw some pass pro progression from the entire group against Minnesota. We even saw Evan Link pointing out like blitz coverages and things coming his way. So getting better. But like right now, I was kind of laughing through some of the pain.
I'm with you, man. So to expand a little bit on the run the damn ball thing, like this analysis that we're giving seems so basic because this Michigan team has like one way to win. That's really where we're at now, and that's why it's so basic. But to get a little bit more granular, in the first half last week, I think we saw a lot from Alex Orji that can be replicated. And if you remove that turnover and just kind of continue with what he was doing in that first half, that is a formula you can win with. So that's going to be like passing across the middle to Colston Loveland. I think like slant concepts are like the easiest, safest thing for a quarterback that has a live arm but can't really like throw with much touch. So getting the ball to Colston Loveland, Marlon Klein across the middle, quick outs, 1, 2, 3, get it out and get it downfield. Doesn't have to be like some huge, aerial assault kind of thing. 5 to 7 yards down the field will work. And I think that'll set up, and there's got to be some semblance of balance.
Yeah, RPOs would change the whole dynamic of this offense. Now they've had some put in there already, and Orji's just missed them. I'm thinking about the 3rd and 1 in the second half of this game where Tyler Morris was completely uncovered, and that was an RPO. But like those are perfect for crashing linebackers, crashing safeties, the cover 4 looks you're going to get. Just hold the ball, and then if he's open, make the throw. But he's really struggled with his decision making. So that's something I'm going to be watching for in this game is just like, can he be a little bit more decisive? Can he think on his feet a little bit more? Even on that scramble in the 3rd and 9 in the first half, which he picked up the first down and it was great. If he just looks down the field while he's running before he crosses the line of scrimmage, there's nobody within 10 yards of Colston Loveland streaking towards the end zone. So just little things like that he has to grasp in position of seeing the field and being a better decision maker, and everything could change for this offense.
Let me ask you this question. If Alex Orji can't rush for, say, over 50 yards and turns the ball over, just even if it's one time and it's under 100 yards passing, do you think we need to make a change? Because what's he bringing to the table?
Exactly.
If he's not
That's
running
the thing.
The ball? Yeah.
If he's not running the ball and he's turning it over, those are supposed to be the two strengths and the two things that you and I supported about making the switch. Then you have to go back to a different quarterback that can actually threaten the defense with the pass. That would change a bunch of stuff. But if Orji can get the run going, and they can do some stuff to help him out with some more +1 running. And when I say +1, I mean more designed running, like using a running back there as a lead blocker, not just a read, doing different things like that. And he can protect the football, which he has been mostly good about. Like, then he's our guy. But yeah, dude, if turnovers start adding up, the runs aren't there, they just continue to be like they have been, got to go to somebody else.
Yep, I'm with you, man. And this would be a great time to hit one explosive down the field like this game, where once again, I feel like we're going to say this every single week from here on out. This is their Super Bowl. Like at 3-2, you look at Washington's schedule coming up. If they can't win this game, it gets very, very difficult. And I don't think they're going to make a bowl game. I think after this, the only game that they'll probably be favored in is UCLA. It's got to be this one for Washington. So once again, it's their Super Bowl. It's going to be loud. It's going to be hairy in there. Alex Orji, my God, I hope the helmet communications are working properly and that he's dialed in, and because it could be very easily that this is way too big for him. He turns the ball over and we see Davis Warren within the first quarter. That is not the craziest thing to me.
No, the coaching staff has to do a nice job of settling him in. That's going to happen with the run game. If they can get the run game going with both players, attack the edges. Just honestly, the scripted plays with Kirk Campbell have been excellent all season.
Yep.
So if they continue with that, have just a nice script to get down the field, that's going to build so much confidence. And we know how the running game and just long drives can take the crowd out of it so quick.
Yep, 100% there. So let's get into some keys to the game. Then we will get into predictions and players of the game. You want to start it off, my friend, with keys to the game?
Yeah, so start off with offense. I think Michigan has a great chance to showcase some growth in this one. I talked about this in my film study a little bit. They're very close to making several plays. It's normally one player here, one player there that's been the difference a lot of times. So it's they tie on one here, tie on one there. Everything could be different. My 3 keys are very simple. Run the damn ball, which includes 15 rushes for Alex Orji minimum. If they stack the line of scrimmage, test them laterally. Get these players out in space. Hopefully Samaj Morgan is back to bring that dynamic threat on the outside. Number 2, win time of possession. Michigan's lost that battle the last 2 weeks. Can't lose it here on the road. Number 3, we've already touched on it a little bit. Use RPOs to complete easy throws and exploit downhill linebackers and safeties and open up those interior running lanes. If Alex Orji hits 2 RPO throws in this game, honestly, it'll change everything.
I like it. For me, keys to the game on offense, going to sound like a broken record here. Turnovers. I've at this point given up on us not turning the ball over. We just got to win the turnover battle. We're probably turning the ball over once in this game. That's just been the recipe up to this point. But keep it at 1, and the defense needs to force 2 then. So just find a way to win that turnover battle. Anything more than 1, I don't think we can win this game, to be honest. If we're turning the ball over 2-3 times, that's probably over. Obviously, running the ball is going to be key, but breaking a few big ones, every little bit extra here, even punt returns, that extra first down that you get, with a 10-yard return. It seems so small at the moment, but that's one less first down you're relying on Alex Orji to go get. That is massive for an offense that first downs are hard to come by. So just get every little yard you can. Any explosive plays in this one, 2 to 3 are going to be massive. And I think that's probably going to have to come from the running game based on what we've seen from the passing attack. And then some type of balance with the passing offense, probably going to be leaning on Colston Loveland, but I think you got to get over 100 yards passing in this one. I think you got to find a way. It might not be on the table. Like you mentioned, they might run the ball 50 times, but you've got to find a way to get Colston Loveland involved so that you can just at least keep these safeties somewhat honest. So even passing, taking a couple deep shots, even if you don't trust Alex Orji to hit him, have him throw deep shots, like true deep shots, not like down the seam to Colson Loveland where it can be picked, like a true deep shot where it's either getting thrown over the receiver's head. So it's either the receiver or nobody, just to keep those safeties a little bit honest, because if not, this box is going to be crowded. So, all right, brother, what are you thinking for players of the game?
One last point on yours. If not, just run the Joe Flacco offense. Like have a receiver draw a pass interference. There's 15 yards and a first down. Like,
yeah,
it's proven to work. It can do wonders. Defensive keys of the game for me. Number one, stop Jonah Coleman. You make this offense one-dimensional. It's going to put a lot of pressure on Will Rogers and make this offense play a way they don't want to play. Number two, we touched on this earlier, no explosives. Force Washington to drive the length of the field. Number three, keep Washington off schedule. This is a team that wants to be balanced. You take that away by winning first down. They cannot run tempo, and they cannot get into a rhythm. And lastly, a bonus one, it's about playing 4 quarters. This defense has shown what it can do for 3, but it's like, some of that falls on the offense as well, but the defense also has to be better. So a 4-quarter game in this one is essential to winning.
Such a great last point. That should honestly be the main point moving forward.
It'll also help getting Josiah Stewart and Will Johnson back.
Yep. So that's where I'm going to start. Hit the crap out of Will Rogers. Like that is going to be key because this guy will pick you apart if he has a clean pocket and time to sit back there. We already mentioned Denzel Boston and Giles Jackson. Those guys will get open on you if given time, even with our excellent secondary. So hit this guy, make him uncomfortable. If you could like get a fumble, force a fumble, which he's had some issues, I think that would go a long way. And that goes into my second point, which I already mentioned. Win the turnover battle. Defense has got to force 2 in this game. I think you got to pay the ferryman twice. Once won't be sufficient. Will Johnson back in this one. That's the guy. That's the guy, man. If he can get a defensive score, the odds of us winning skyrocket. So, I mean, I know that's asking a lot. Like a defensive score is a pretty rare feat, but if he can
not for Will Johnson, yet again,
not for Will Johnson. Yeah, seems to do it every other game. So might need one in this one. And then, yeah, man, like your 4th quarter point is so excellent. So I'm just going to kind of stack on top of that and just say like discipline throughout the game. Like stay disciplined, know your job. You don't have to go out and make some crazy play, particularly among the safeties. Like I do not want to see them giving up any big explosives. Just stay in front of your man. Nothing big. Let Washington beat themselves because they're eager to do it. They're eager to beat themselves.
Yes, that's a great last point. I have one even for special teams because last week was just kind of abhorrent to close the show. Just get back to fundamentals and coverage and win the battle of field position. Like that'll go a long way. And we talk about winning on the margins all the time. It's something Washington struggles to do. And if they want to struggle at it, let them struggle.
Yeah, man. And I keep waiting for the game where it's like the Dominic Zavada game, because if you just get across the 50, you're basically in his range. So I just feel like there's going to be one of these games where our drives are stalling out because our offense is putrid. And like we're just relying on Dom Zavada to just bang 58 yarders. It's coming in one of these games. So it might be this one, but that's a great point. Keep an eye on that. And yeah, if we could get a touchdown in special teams, that kind of goes into my defense or special teams. You can kind of lump those together, getting a touchdown in either place because this thing's going to be low scoring, man. So every point's going to go a long way. Let's get into your players of the game. I think this is going to be a pretty simple one on offense, but what are you thinking?
I'm going a slightly more unconventional just for the sake of parity. I'm going with Max Bredesen. I think he's going to be involved in a bunch of different ways, whether it's blocking for Orgy, Donovan Edwards, or Khalil Mullings, who might tote the rock 30 times in this game. I think he could be a tone setter out there and just bring a physicality that no one else on the field can match.
Look, it's Khalil Mullings. What are we doing here? Like, it's Khalil Mullings. Max Bredesen's kind of a cheeky way to say Khalil Mullings because he's going to be following him. Like, if Max Bredesen's on the field, probably.
You're welcome for saving you, Khalil Mullings, by the way.
Oh, I appreciate that. What a gentleman. Yeah, I'm going to take Khalil Mullings in this one. The Bulldozer got to go over a $122 touchdown, something like that. Feels like that's going to have to be the kind of afternoon for him. And, Donovan Edwards, again, not a guy that should ever be forgotten. Could we see some Benjamin Hall? Like, that's going to happen at some point in this season. I'm not sure if this is the game for it, though.
It could be. And God, poor Dono, just getting left out to dry on that wheel route. Like it changes everything. Even Alex Orgy alluded to the fact that he owes him one in this one or this season. So we'll see more on that. I'm hoping Jordan Marshall is healthy. That's my guy. I either see he or Ben Hall get mixed in here, but I think it's going to be a heavy dose of Khalil. So I think limited carries after that.
Yeah, that's our guy, Andy. That is our guy. He
True,
is a shared love. Shout out to Vaughn in the comments. Zavada hits 250-plus field goals. I buy it. If Vaughn speaks, you listen. The man's been on it so far this year. So I'm going to go ahead and bet that. See if I can get that on FanDuel. Zavada, 250 plus yarders. I could see it. All right, man. Players of the game on defense. What are you thinking?
Keeping it simple here as well. Josiah Stewart, he was an absolute game wrecker against USC, and I think you're going to see it here. Michigan has to have him in this one. Really missed him late in the game against Minnesota, the way he can just change the complexion of it. And I think the Big Ten leader in sacks adds a couple more.
Man, that's a great call out. I'm also going to keep it simple and say Will Johnson back after a week off. Going to have the task of Denzel Boston, which is a great wide receiver name, by the way.
Yeah.
So he'll have him for the entire evening. And same thing. I mean, it's Jair Hill and Will Johnson because Giles Jackson going to be in the slot, and I'm not positive how often Jair Hill be matched up against him, but
a lot of Zeke Berry, which makes me nervous.
That doesn't make me feel great, not giving me the warm and fuzzies. So, yeah, Zeke Berry's got to be good in this one, but I'm going to go with Will Johnson, man. Baiting Will Rogers into a pick would just feed families. So I will go with Will Johnson with a little side of Jair Sugar Hill, or as Gus Johnson would call him, Yair from Cuba. Couldn't believe that. Why would it be Yair?
I don't know. Gus and Joel have had better games. Prediction for me in this one, I'm going with Michigan for the simple reason that they win the line of scrimmage on both sides. I said that against USC. That's why I picked them. I'm picking them here because of that. I like them on both sides of the line of scrimmage. I have questions at several places, mainly with the offense, but I think Michigan wins 23-17. And I think you see 3 field goals from Dom Zavada in this one, 250 plus, the Vaughn special.
The Vaughn special, baby. I need to go first on my predictions. I have almost the exact same score. We do not touch base on these before we do this podcast. We just have been doing this together too long, so we'd see it similarly. I am also going with Michigan in this one. I bet this one, which scares the crap out of me because betting Michigan this year, yeah, I'm going to do a couple Hail Marys for that one. But, I mean, 2.5 points. Like, Michigan is the better team. We're the champions. We just beat this team to win the championship, and we have such a better defense, and I fully expect that there's going to be a game where this defense plays a full 4 quarters. And when they do, they should be the best defense in college football. So I'm just betting on that getting worked out at some point. Now, as we've said ad nauseum, the offense has to help with that. Do not turn the ball over and put the defense in terrible positions, because that's going to really skew things. But eventually this defense is going to play 4 quarters of football, and that's why I am taking Michigan 24-17. Pretty much see it the exact same way that you do. It's got to be like 4 quarters on the offense too. Like, when is this offense going to finally, it doesn't necessarily have to click and become some elite unit, but when are they going to finish an entire game? Because we've seen glimpses of it, man. Can you just put that together for an entire game?
Exactly. And again, it's winning in the margins. It's the little thing. It's missing 1 block here, going the wrong way here, an untimely holding penalty like we saw in CJ Charleston near the end zone against Minnesota. Just the little small things. If they can correct those, then perhaps we see what the best of this team could be, because we still haven't seen it yet this season. Like, Michigan is 4-1 and a top 10 ranked team, and they've played like crap for at least 1 quarter in every game this season. So glass half full. If they can even just get that up to mediocre, they could win this game by 2 scores, but remains to be seen.
Yep, and Jed Fish, he's going to want this one with his stupid little visor looking like he lives on a golf course. Nobody cares, Jed Fish. I'm sure you want this one, but not your time.
It's monogrammed. Like, he had to take that somewhere and have it done. Like, Jay, middle name's Allen. I don't know what his middle name is. I think it's an A in the middle. F. Okay, there it is.
That's it. There it is, baby. And he's looking at his visor like a proud father. All right, brother. That's going to do it for us here. Please make sure you like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. We will be back on Out of the Blue on Tuesday next week to break this down, win, lose, or draw. Then it's bye week, a well-timed, much-needed bye week for these Michigan Wolverines. So that'll be great, but we'll have some great content for you on the bye. Thanks to Lewis, Tyler, Vaughn, and Olivia for joining us in the chat. Appreciate y'all. I'm Jared. That's Andy. We'd like to remind you that wherever you go, go blue. See ya.